I've been challenged or tasked with a wrap up today. I'm going to have Jim Hubbard. Jim, you want to come on up? We'll share the wrap up today. And I know that it's at the end of a long day for everybody here, and everybody's spent a lot of energy, and I'm sure that we're running low, so we're not going to try to drag this on too much. But we're fortunate that Jim Hubbard's here. He's the Director of Urban and Community Forestry from the U.S. Forest Service. And I want to hear some of his thoughts on what he heard today, and I wanted to share some of mine, sort of trying to synthesize what we have. I love conversations like this because we started with a really simple question that Ray posed in the first thing this morning is, what's the role of trees in the development of healthier communities? Very specific question. And then we heard a whole bunch of data that was all fascinating, all over the place. I mean, there's no doubt that trees have a role in healthier communities and in public health. A lot of, but there's just it's all over the place. I mean, there's really nowhere you can hide. There's a broad array of data. And then we had the local folks come up and talk about their programs, which are approaching this fairly simple issue with another huge array of approaches. There's not one approach, there's multiple approaches, and it needs multiple people involved with it. And it gets back to, okay, so what do you do with that? And the way I started to synthesize it was something that we talked about at our table and we heard about this morning is, what's your tree story? And on the board of directors of the Tree Foundation, we talk about what our personal tree story is. And I think it demonstrates what your tree values are. And everybody has tree values, but my tree values are different than your tree values. They're different than your tree values, different than your tree values. But we can all agree on that we value trees. So I think it's important to remember that we're all coming from one spot, but we all can agree that trees are important for public health. They're critical for public health. So no matter how we get to the conclusion, we're all going to get to the same conclusion. So Jim, first of all, do you have a tree story you want to share, or what was your takeaway from today?
I don't even know where to start, but I think where I will want to start is I can't do better summarizing today than a student from Grant High School. But thanks, Ray, for inviting me. I do appreciate indulging myself in this kind of a day. I don't get to do this very often, so it was more than worthwhile. I think Dr. Eiton talked about resident power. That struck me. That's always been the case, as it's ready and what it's ready for, and that varies by community a whole lot. What I deal with in my job, which is, it does include urban, but it also includes dealing with fire, dealing with forest management, dealing with insect and disease. Urban came along a little after all of those things and really started to get some momentum in 1990. And in 1990, the momentum was basically quality of life discussions. Not much data, not much evidence, but it had some champions. It had some congressional champions in Senator Leahy of Vermont and Representative Yates from Illinois. And they made some things happen with some policy and some federal funding that helped get some thinking started at least. It took people like Ray Trethewey and Shannon Ramsey to put meaning to that and to be persistent enough to stay with it this long and work through what that might mean. We've moved on and we've talked about air, we've talked about water, we've talked about energy, starting to make more of a case for what the benefits might be. Canopy cover became a way of conveying some of those benefits and with some quantification to go along with it. But now I think I'm hearing more evidence, more data that becomes information, that becomes stories, and if we take Jeff's advice, we'll take those stories back and get some more evidence and run through the cycle again. And that's probably needed from from where I see things. Human health and human performance related to green environment is new in the policy debate. It's been around a while, but it hasn't gotten much traction. I think now maybe we know enough to use it with some traction and sort out what federal and state roles might be in support of that application, that resident power, that has now taken on even more meaning with the collaboration, and in particular what I'm struck by is the alignment that I saw today. A broader group of people, a group of people that when Ray and Shannon started all this would not have been in the room. And that's pretty impressive, and starting to be more than just a passion about quality of life. It's starting to be a way of describing something that might be pretty vital to our future sustainability.
So you mentioned just now that this is sort of I'll say a newer sort of approach with the public policy about trees and public health. What do you, if you were to look forward, and I asked this question at the last panel, look forward, 5 or 10 years. You're a policy professional. I'm just a bystander, so I can ask these questions. Where do you think this could go in 5 or 10 years? What might we expect? Or what can we hope to expect?
Oh, I'm always good at predictions. I love this. What I hope for is what you're starting to see here. The interaction of more groups recognizing the importance of the role of trees. Back when it was quality of life, it was focused on the right tree in the right place. And we're still wrestling with the right tree in the right place. But it's a whole lot more than that. What trees are to us isn't just a luxury. It isn't just a convenience. It isn't just a benefit that some certain people enjoy. I think it's more than that. So I hope that in 5 years we start to see more recognition among people who make decisions about trees in our communities, and about those who might be willing to step forward and provide the resources it takes to do something about it. And that will come from a lot of different sectors, and I hope it does, because I think that value is there. We're starting to learn it. We're starting to identify it. We're starting to communicate it. And I think it will resonate.
I know that our professionals with our Tree Foundation staff are aware of other, I'll say top-notch tree groups throughout the nation who are doing things the right way. I know Sacramento Tree Foundation gets a lot of credit because they do things very, very well. Iowa's doing obviously outstanding things also, and we hear a lot about that. But because you get to look at it from a national level, are there any regions that we should be looking at? And I'm saying this for the benefit of the non-tree or the non-tree policy folks here. But what regions have you worked with who might be doing something the right way or trending the right way that we might want to look at as models?
I think you'll find examples of good efforts no matter where you look. So I don't have one that stands out for me. I think every region, every state has something that we can learn from. And California, in many places, is quite progressive. California as a state, when your economy's working for you, does quite well. And it is more progressive than a lot of places, than most places. But it does come down to that resident power, and never underestimate the value of what those local ideas mean to the local citizens. It's a whole lot more than what any of the federal or state agencies can provide. We can maybe assist, but assist only in the application that you're ready for.
Everybody, puts a different value on trees, and I kind of thought, okay, trees and public health, in my mind, trees are sort of like aspirin. Aspirin has a whole lot of benefits, and various people take aspirin for various reasons. And headache, heart, and maybe it helps with prevent cancer, who knows. Trees are the same way, and everybody has a different reason why they want to have trees, or multiple reasons why they want to have trees. And so I wanted to share just a brief story about my tree story, and why trees make me very happy. I hope they make me healthier, but I know they make me happier. I have a huge tree in my front yard. It's a Zelkova. It's wider than it is tall, and it's pretty darn tall. It goes almost all the way across the street. And when my wife and I moved into the house 14 years ago, my father-in-law gave us he had one of those round sort of disc swings you hang from a rope from a big branch. So we hung it up. But there are no kids in the neighborhood, so it sat there for a year. My niece and nephew would come over from out of town. They'd go on it. Then a family with 3 kids moved in, and the kids, Rebecca, Avi, and Esty, they'd ride on the swing every day after work, and that was great. We had kids in the neighborhood. Well, then more and more kids came, and more kids came to our front yard, and they'd swing on the swing. And pretty soon, parents with little kids say, oh, you can go down to Steve and Pam's house. That's as far as you're allowed to go by yourself to go on the swing. And so we had kids coming from both directions, and they play on the swing. And so my wife and I are fortunate enough to have a kid 2.5 years ago. So last summer, I come home from work, and I had 13 kids and 12 parents on my front lawn on a summer afternoon, and they're swinging and talking, and there's some guys with beers, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I'm healthier because I'm happier for it, but it's like I'm happier because I have a community. Like my trees created community for me, and I think that it's, we talked about mental health earlier, and there's an absolute mental health benefit to me. And I hope that everybody here can look at their own individual tree stories and use that as a motivator, because it really does give you some clarity when you're going to be entering into the discussion that we're continuing here and next year and the year after that to sort of find your purpose. So wrapping up, Jim, any last words of wisdom? You flew all the way out here from the East Coast, which is great. I'm sure you're enjoying our weather. But anything else to share us to motivate us?
Yeah, right. I don't know how to respond to that. I just want to once again thank you for letting me sit in on your session and learn from you and get regrounded and hear the stories. It's what you sometimes forget when you live in the Beltway and you deal with policymakers and that's disconnected. So I guess somebody mentioned that Bakersfield. I'm going to go talk to the city council. At one time in my life, I was the state forester of Colorado, and one of the things that I enjoyed doing the most was celebrating Arbor Day. And when we'd celebrate Arbor Day, it was not only a community event and a tree planting event, but we'd always make sure it was a presentation to the city council at the same time. And so Colorado would have 100 tree cities each year, and we made sure we made 100 presentations to those city councils each year. It was all positive. We weren't asking for anything. We were celebrating what they had accomplished and letting them know how it was important. So I think sometimes the decision makers you have to deal with have a whole lot of issues that are biting them, a whole lot of things that are pretty important to the citizens of the community. This is one of them, but it's one of many. And anytime you get a chance to give it positive reinforcement, that's worthwhile.
Well, thanks, Jim. It was great to have you here. I appreciate you helping with the wrap-up today. I want to thank everybody who came here today. I hope you found it as valuable as I found it. I really enjoyed myself. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have everybody in one room and having this dialogue.
I'd like to ask Cindy Blaine to come up here. I'd like all the speakers to please stand up. I know the speakers are still here. I'd like to ask all the staff and the staff volunteers to stand up. Up here. And how about all our guests today to stand up? We put on a beautiful performance together. Thank you, Cindy, and everybody else.